Today is Independence Day 2014 in Minnesota. Let it be said that on that day, I called for the celebration of the 41% of Minnesota voters who identify as independent, not Republican, not Democrat. George Washington said, "Stay away from political parties and factions." Do you see why? Imagine the Brits, if you will, having 24/7 live cable news and having Barack Obama's NSA capabilities in 1776. Do you think there would even be an independent United States of America? No. And that's exactly what both the DFL and the establishment Republicans use to take away our freedom and independence and seriously threaten our ability to govern ourselves. Mark Ritchie takes home your email addresses from the Secretary of State's office to raise funds for the DFL campaigns. I'm Steve Carlson, Independence Party candidate for U.S. Senate against Al Franken, and I'm trying to be your modern-day Paul Revere, calling you out on August 12th to vote to preserve that radical middle. Because the freedom riders like Paul Revere were radical centrists. They were straight-up Americans, not Democrats, not Republicans. I sometimes think the Republicans are a ragtag outfit who try to muster at election time to fight against the DFL demagogues who are trying to engineer our lives and feed massive cash deposits to their national party in Washington. Is that a kind of political slavery? Absolutely. Let's tell the truth. Well, the Republicans can't do it because they don't know what's coming down. You see, the DFL is heavily regimented. Did you know that? Many who consider themselves Democrat voters don't even know that. If they did, there would be something like 51% independent voters in Minnesota. Let's shoot for that in Minnesota, 51% independent voters, not just 41%. We still love America, and Al Franken is right. Liberals love America, but conservatives love America too. Even Ann Coulter, George Bush, Dick Cheney. But the DFL must hate something about America, or they wouldn't restrict white males to just 35% to 40% of their voting delegates when they endorse candidates and party platforms. They're trying to do radical surgery on America. I just want America to surge forward, to realize our destiny. And for that, we need to preserve the radical middle and keep the Independence Party alive. Keep hope alive. Hope for a thinking Minnesota, a public discourse in elections that can give each issue its due, including at the core the national issues, the national independent movement where the Independence Party originated. My vision for Minnesota and for the Independence Party is to lead the nation in radical centrism. Let's export radical centrism, because that is brain power, that is ideas, that is America's future. The ideas of freedom and liberty that this nation has been blessed and so richly endowed with. And if you don't know what that's about, you have to find out. But first, we've got to show up on August 12th to keep the Independence Party on the ballot. Because if I can't win and take on Al Franken in the general election, or the IP candidate for governor doesn't take votes away from Mark Dayton, the IP won't be around anymore. How did it even come to this? And what does it mean for Minnesota and for the independent voters? A little history. This party started off as a legitimate third-party movement, but today it is strangled. It's got a chairman who never talks about anything except whether the party's dead yet. His most well-known quote is, "IP's been called dead many times before." Inspiring, huh? Mark Jenkins ran against me in CD4 for a state position in some precincts, and I polled even or ahead of him. Because Minnesotans know that I am deeply concerned about the issues we face as a country, but I am dedicated to working to right America, to keep her on course, and faithful to our American Constitution. I honor the Tea Party and respect the American people who come out nationwide to support our true destiny to light the way for democracy in the world. I'm not supporting one team or another, and I voice solutions, ideas that I will work into the fabric of America's future. And yes, the Tea Party is popular, because the Tea Party is nothing but the American people, awakened, and working to preserve and restore America. It is the strongest third party in America today. This third party movement in Minnesota goes way back to Ross Perot, Henry Ross Perot is an American businessman, best known for being an independent presidential candidate in 1992 and 1996. And the party was formed in 1992 by Minnesota supporters of Ross Perot and fielded Dean Barkley that year as a candidate for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Perot showed with 19% in the 1992 election. Jesse Ventura did better than that when he beat out the Republican and Democrats in 1998. And you can trace that back to the efforts of Ross Perot. But at the national level, Perot's efforts brought in Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, and the whole show. On the whole, though, we need third parties to balance out the extremism we see in the two national parties. What I call extremism, though, is the identity politics of picking candidates for president based on their race or gender, as the Democrats do on the one hand, and the total focus on money and lack of any effort to curb the national debt and federal budget as the Republicans do on the other. And America is caught in the middle. The 41% of Minnesotans who are independent are caught in the middle, being whipsawed as the major parties take turns getting their hands in the federal treasury. Everything else is turbulence. After a vicious terrorist attack on our homeland, we supposedly struck back and moved strongly to protect our freedoms. But now, under Obama, we've lost Iraq. It was just announced. We can't get the land lost to ISIS back. We see the breakup after years of serious sacrifice by our brave men and the women who helped them. We see our economy out of control, depressed, even as those invested in stocks celebrate new and dizzying heights. Let's get back to reality. So what has the Independence Party done in their little wishy-washy cliques? Well, they started with homosexual marriage, lying about their plans after defeating a marriage amendment. Then they progressed to legalizing marijuana. And now they're pushing sales of alcohol on Sundays. Wow, some lineup, don't you think? Ross Perot would be ashamed, and so would Pat Buchanan. Jesse Ventura probably would be fine with it. But don't forget Jesse the Mind. I appreciate Jesse's work on digging into the assassination of JFK. I do. But we've got to get back to the mind of Minnesota. That is our greatest contribution, the mind of Minnesota. As Arnie Carlson once told me, we need more thinking. Yes, and radical centrism is what we need, to be radically opposed to being played with, toyed with, by the major national parties. So do I want an Independence Party candidate to win federal office or state office? Only if he or she is the best candidate. Do I want you to vote for me for the U.S. Senate? Only if in the debates I show I'm the best leader. But first I need you to turn out and vote for me in the August 12th U.S. Senate primary. This is what I believe the national third party movements wanted to do. But in 1995, the local yokels cut themselves off from both national parties which they had been affiliated with, the Reform Party USA and Independence Party of America. That's why you'll hear Mark Jenkins talking about the Independence Party doesn't want to mess with national issues. We're just about Minnesota politics. So what? Is Minnesota supposed to secede from the United States? No. Minnesota belongs to America, and we have a responsibility to lead. That's what I want to do. I want to lead as your U.S. Senator. In the coming weeks, I will work to bring you specific policy issues. In the meantime, you can visit SteveCarlsonForCongress2010.com and read over my strategies and my issues. And please come out and vote to keep independence alive in 2014.